And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at G.I. Joe deck building game. Now, I gotta be honest, I went into this game not expecting a lot. This is a deck building game from Renegade. There's several other deck building games that have done Power Rangers, Transformers. Not overly impressed there. And man, I loved G.I. Joe as a kid. I liked the cartoons were fine, but I love the toys. The cartoons have not held up well over the years, but you know, I like this. It's fun. And so I'd hate to see this being messed with. Even more importantly, I was not excited about a deck building game because G.I. Joe is not about deck building, right? G.I. Joe is, I want to see guys running around and shooting the Cobra Commander and him and Destro screaming at each other and things like that. And Serpentor showing up and all that. But hey, this is what we got, deck building game. Now, this is a cooperative deck building game and can be played solo. And shocking of all shockings, I've actually played this one solo. So let's talk about how it plays, and we'll come back. Each player has their own starting deck where they're going to have some starting cards in this deck. So you got some comms, diffuse, second effort, and then a bunch of generic GIs, some Joes that you'll start with. Each player is also going to pick a leader. So I picked, of course, Roadblock. But you can also pick Scarlet, Snake Eyes, Duke, Lady, Jay, or Flint. You're also going to get the upgraded version of that card as the game goes by. You have the opportunity to promote that person into a leader. So you're going to have a starting deck. Players are also going to have this Vamp starting transport card that's in your hanger. You have an opportunity to get more of these as the game goes by. Now, what you're doing each round of the game, when it's a player's turn, there's going to be bad guy things happening. You're going to have this track here, and at the end of the round, this is moving up, and in fact, once it hits this green thing, it moves faster. If this gets all the way to the top, guess what? You lose. So players are going to be working hard to try to stop this. Now, this moves at the end of turns. If you're playing with fewer characters, fewer players, like if you play by yourself, there's a couple things the game gives you a chance to reserve a card and save it for a future round, and also you'll activate some of the stuff only every other round when you're playing with just one or two players. Now, when it's your turn, you're going to be playing cards from your hand, and you're going to have a mixture of these normal GIs at the beginning and some other cards, and hopefully your leader that you have. When you play these cards, there's two things you're going to do with them. One is you're going to use them as currency, and that currency is going to be used to buy cards out here. There's a little stars on each of these, so you can see I have 2 currency to spend, and I might buy this Ram, which is another transport vehicle that when it comes up my deck, I'll be able to stick it in my hanger. But you'll also be able to buy specific Joes, like Beachhead here, who has a 4 in stealth. Well, that's kind of pretty neat. Or you can get gear. Gears are cards that you can give to your different Joes. This lets you re-roll up to 1 die for each Joe on this mission. Also, it's worth 2 when you're using it for money. And there's all kinds of cards in this deck. You will recognize some of them, perhaps if you know G.I. Joe. Muskrat and Jinx and Tunnel Rat, Hacking Gear, and APC, a Tomahawk, Torpedo, the Skyhawk, the Killer Whale, the Shark, Lightfoot, Halo Jump, utility card. There's all sorts, and the more it costs, which is this top big number, the more powerful it's going to be. Rock and Roll, one of my favorite characters. Now, buying is one thing you do in your turn. The other thing is go on a mission. Now, this box comes with 2 different missions, and they're very replayable. Don't worry about that. Each mission comes with different levels, 1, 2, and 3. You also notice orange border mission. That's always going to be in the game. And so you will have these missions. These are the main missions that have to be put into play. At the end of a round, there's not one in play. You're trying to go through this deck. You go through the deck, you'll win. Each mission will have some information on it. So you'll see this one has a 5. You need 5 successes to do this. And if you succeed on this one, it's going to move the token on this track down 2. And if you fail on this mission, then that tracker is going to go up 1, and the Baroness comes into play. So this game this is the main mission, but there are side missions that can come into play. And the Baroness is one of these. She's a group mission here. So until you defeat her, then story missions, this one here, the main mission, you have to have a leader or you can't even go on it. So there's other side missions that will come out of the deck. There's Cobra battalions that you can go out and fight, and all different things will happen. There's also complications. This has one complication on it, so there will be a complication placed here, and when you go on this mission, so you say, I'm deciding to go on this mission, you'll reveal the complication and do what it says. In this case, it says, if this mission fails, double the threat meter modifier. Ugh, well, that's no good. Some of these themselves are side missions that will come into play, and sometimes they'll do things like this. Each player shuffles a Cobra Trooper into your deck, which is a real pain in the neck bad card that goes in your deck. But let's say you're going on the mission. You need a vehicle to go on a mission. So this vehicle here is your starting vehicle, the Vamp. This lets me send out 4 Joes with this. And this one always goes back in the hangar. This vehicle here only can carry 1 person, this one, but it gives me +3 if it's a recon mission, which this is not, and +2 wild skill if there's a tank there, which there is. So I have to decide which vehicle to use and which Joes I'm going to send out. Once you have your Joes together, so let's say I sent out Flint and my upgraded leader Roadblock on this mission, and maybe even a couple of regular Joes. Now, each person you send out on a mission is going to add their skill to that mission. So this is a martial arts and explosives mission. Roadblocks is a 3 in explosive, so he's going to be giving me 3 dice. Fantastic. Flint here is 2 for vehicles. That's not worth anything. So Flint just gives 1. Everyone gets 1 wild, and these 2 Joes would also give me 1 each. So I'm going to roll these dice, and I'm looking for 5 successes, and I got 3, which is not enough. But you never know. I might have these binoculars, which let me roll up to 1 die for each Joe in a mission. There was 4 Joes, so I'm going to re-roll all these blanks. Yeah, now I got 6 successes. I've accomplished a mission. I do the success, it goes away. If I did the failure, that also goes away. You know, just attempting the mission itself, you can still make it go away and bring out the next mission, which in this case would be protect the satellite. But, you know, the more negative things happen, the worse the game's going to be for you. So that's kind of it. You can pay to buy cards. You can also pay to upgrade your main character. So, you know, you have a promoted leader here, and you can see that Roadblock here is a much more powerful character. For leaders that aren't in the game, let's say nobody picked Roadblock, he would be shuffled into the deck and come out, and there's a possibility of getting him. So that's kind of the game in a nutshell. You're just trying to go through these decks till you get to the final mission of each of them. So maybe mission 2 here, you have to destroy the mind control device. That's the final thing. Cobra Commander and Dr. Mindbender are in play. And if you succeed on this one, you win. Otherwise, the track goes up 2 and it stays in play. So it's kind of very basic in that regard, and that's how you play. I like most of the components of the game. I like the dice. The dice are fine. There's a few tokens included with the game for missions you succeed or fail. They're fine. The art is really great. I like the different art on the different characters, you know, and I like the art on the missions. This is very G.I. Joe-esque. I remember it from the cartoons and the toys, and, you know, the bad guy art looks great. I already went through this deck a little bit, but as you can see, there's so many different characters, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember Shipwreck and Polly. That's pretty cool. Ripcord and Covergirl and Mainframe. So the artwork is fine. The box holds everything. I mean, it's a very generic box, but it works. However, this here is a piece of trash. This is one of the worst rule books. I was playing the game with so many errors and mistakes, and I went and watched a video, and I was like, oh, I'm doing that wrong, I'm doing that wrong. And you would think there's examples in here and all sorts of things. A lot of the things in this game are not particularly intuitive, and there's just a lot. It looks like a good rule book. It looks fine, but guess what? It's not. Now, man, I'll tell you, the very bad rule book is a negative point against this game, and I'm concerned a lot of people are going to get it and have a hard time figuring out how to play. Just simple things like you can use the Joes to buy new cards and go on missions. That's a big deal. The game's much harder otherwise. The game is tricky to win. I've both beaten and lost to the game, and so I don't mind that. I feel like the level of difficulty is there, but it comes down to kind of randomness. So I'm getting my two negative things out of the way right away. The first is the rule book. The other is the randomness. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. I'd be like, I'm playing this card, and this card, and this card, and this card. I'm rolling 12 dice, and just so many blanks. You know, you just. There was one game I played where the Baroness. I mean, I guess thematically, ooh, she got away again. But wow, we spent so many dice going after the Baroness and just kept missing and missing and missing. When you have dice that have misses on 50% of the sides, that's going to happen often. And yes, you can mitigate dice and things like that, but sometimes it just doesn't matter. Re-rolling doesn't matter if you still roll blanks. So keep that in mind. It's a deck building game, but there's a lot of luck involved in rolling the dice. Now, taking that out, the idea of getting together groups of Joes and sending them off on missions, having side missions show up, and you go off on those which don't really progress the main mission, but sometimes that side mission's a real pain in the neck. I love that. And I thought, man, there's no way we can beat this. That tracker moves up pretty fast, but there are lots of missions and ways to bring that tracker down. And then getting the right vehicle with the right Joe and sending him off on a mission and just watching them obliterate stuff. There's battalions, Cobra battalions, which cover up the cards in the middle. So you need to basically kill them to reveal those cards so you can beat the, buy those cards. And also if they all cover up, you'll lose. There are many different ways to lose, but I just found it to be incredibly thematic. And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting this G.I. Joe deck building game to, well, feel like G.I. Joe. But it does. And I enjoy that. Sometimes, though, your deck, you've built this cool deck, and something will come out like, we need explosives. You don't have anyone in your deck that's explosive. So you're trying to figure out a way to get around that, to get wild advantages, or there's definitely cards in that deck which are amazing, and if you get one of them, it makes the game so much easier. Like I had one that turned single successes into doubles, and considering there's 2 single successes on a die and only 1 double, that's a pretty powerful card to draw. But it just comes together in a thematic way, and buying those powerful cards offsets a little bit that randomness that I had a problem with. I think this is best solo. I played it with other people, but I like it best by myself. It's easy to play. There's card manipulation. The storyline comes through. It takes, the 45 minutes to an hour with one player. It's a little bit longer with more. There's a lot more, there's a lot of bookkeeping, but with one player, you can kind of just speed through it as fast as you can. So here's what I'm saying. I like the game. I recommend it. However, if you don't like G.I. Joe, move on. This is not going to win you over. This is like almost like a love letter to G.I. Joe fans. You need to know that going in, and knowing is half the battle. But you need to know that, and you also need to know there's a good chunk of randomness. But that being said, it feels different than the other deck building games. I honestly thought this would be like the many other deck building games that come from, well, Matt Hyra does a lot of these deck building games. They all feel very similar. This one does not feel similar. It has the thematic idea of getting this out there, going out there. Destro's being a pain in the neck. Let's take him out. Cobra Commander. Let's take out Cobra Commander. There's a jet coming and making a bombing run. I like that. It's enjoyable. It keeps me going. Yes, the game's not perfect. There's bumps and falls, and sometimes the dice just don't go your way. But overall, as a G.I. Joe fan, I approve of it. I had fun doing it, and I think many of you will too. So that's G.I. Joe, the deck building game. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment, go Joe! Approved!